Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off this presentation with a fascinating look at the birth of agriculture, which is truly the greatest revolution in human history. Today, we'll explore how humanity transitioned from hunters and gatherers to farmers and civilizations. Over the next few slides, we'll dive into the key moments and impacts of this incredible transformation. So let's get started. Before we dive into the rise of agriculture, let's take a moment to understand what life was like before the farm. During this pre-agriculture period, humans primarily lived as hunter-gatherers. This means they were constantly on the move, searching for food in their environment. They relied on hunting animals and gathering plants, berries, and nuts to survive. This nomadic lifestyle was essential because it matched the natural availability of resources. People didn't settle in one place. Instead, they followed the seasons and animal migrations. Now, with the development of agriculture, something transformative happened. It allowed clans and tribes to settle in one location for longer periods. This shift from a nomadic to a settled lifestyle led to the creation of permanent villages. Archaeological evidence shows that this major change occurred over 10,000 years ago or even earlier. So the key point here is that before agriculture, humans were mainly hunters and gatherers, constantly moving and adapting to their environment. This lifestyle set the foundation for the complex societies that would follow. And to connect this to our overall theme, understanding this shift helps us see how the development of farming was crucial in shaping human history and the way societies organized themselves. Now let's take a closer look at the agricultural revolution, which was actually a two-part transformation. First, we have the domestication of plants. This means learning to cultivate crops and selectively breed them to improve food production and ensure survival. It's about humans taking control of plant growth to meet their needs. The second part is the domestication of livestock. Here, humans tamed and bred animals for various purposes, not just for food, but also for labor, clothing, and other essential resources. The most revolutionary aspect of this entire process was that it allowed people to produce their own food. This independence from constant hunting and gathering meant they could support larger populations and establish permanent settlements. Now, to test your understanding, think about the main components of this transformation. Fill in the blanks. The two main components of the agricultural revolution were the domestication of blank and the domestication of blank. The answers are plants and livestock. Let's take a closer look at why Eurasia led the way in early agricultural development, starting with its unique geography. Eurasia is aligned along an east-west axis, which is quite different from the north-south orientation seen in Africa and the Americas. This east-west layout means that much of Eurasia spans similar climate zones across vast distances. Because of this, crops that were domesticated in one part of Eurasia could be more easily adapted and spread across the entire continent. The climate consistency across these east-west regions meant that the crops didn't have to adjust to drastically different conditions, making agriculture expand more rapidly. In contrast, Africa and the Americas have a north-south orientation, which covers a broad range of climates, from tropical to temperate zones. Imagine, for example, corn originating in Mexico, which is temperate, and then trying to reach Peru, which is tropical. Until after 1500 AD, this kind of spread was quite limited, because the environmental differences posed significant barriers. So, the key takeaway is that Eurasia's east-west axis created a kind of natural highway for agricultural diffusion, allowing crops, domesticated animals, and farming techniques to move more swiftly across similar climates. This rapid spread helped accelerate agricultural development and the growth of civilizations, compared to the slower, more hindered spread in regions with diverse climates. And just to clarify with the practice question, it's false that the north-south orientation of Africa and the Americas allowed for faster crop spread. In fact, the east-west orientation of Eurasia was the main reason why agricultural practices spread more quickly there. Let's take a closer look at the cradle of agriculture, Mesopotamia. This region, which is modern-day Iraq, is where agriculture first took root in Eurasia. It's really fascinating because this area is considered the birthplace of farming practices that spread across large parts of the world. From here, agriculture spread westward into North Africa and Europe, and also eastward all the way to the Indus River Valley. This shows how vital Mesopotamia was as a hub for early agricultural development. Now, the environment of Mesopotamia played a huge role in its success. The region experienced cool, rainy winters, which provided the moisture needed for plants to grow. During hot, dry summers, the cereals, like wheat and barley, developed large seeds, which were crucial for food. The rapid growth of plants was also supported by a limited growing season, which meant plants had to grow quickly. Plus, the small size of many of these plants, without woody stems, made harvesting much easier. All these environmental advantages created ideal conditions for early farmers to thrive. As we think about the overall story of agriculture spreading across civilizations, Mesopotamia's environment and location were key factors. And for our practice question, what is the modern country that corresponds to this ancient region? That's right, it's Iraq. Now, let's look at the factors that created the perfect storm leading to plant domestication. First, we have improved technology. As people developed better hunting and gathering tools, they gained access to more reliable food sources. This stability in food supply meant they could settle in one place rather than constantly move around. Next, climate change played a significant role. After the last ice age, roughly 10,000 years ago, the climate became warmer and wetter. These conditions allowed cereal grains, like wheat and barley, to spread across the Near East more easily. When you combine these two factors, better tools and a more favorable climate, you get a situation where food sources became more abundant and reliable. This stability encouraged people to settle down in permanent villages, which was a critical step towards developing agriculture. So, in summary, improved technology and climate change worked together to make food supplies more dependable, setting the stage for humans to domesticate plants and ultimately develop farming. Now, for the practice question, matching the factors to their results. Improved hunting technology leads to a more stable food supply, and a warmer, wetter climate promotes the spread of cereal grains. When life became more settled, we saw some interesting changes in population and discovery. With settled village life, people tended to wean their young earlier, which led to a higher birth rate overall. This means the population started to grow more quickly. One of the big advantages of settling down was that it allowed people to keep an eye on seeds over a long period of time. This was crucial because it gave them the opportunity to observe how seeds behave and grow, something much harder to do when constantly on the move. Women played a key role in this process. Since they gathered the seeds, they were likely the ones to notice how seeds sprouted and developed into plants. Their close contact with the seeds meant they could observe patterns and changes, which eventually led to the discovery of how seeds grow. As for how this discovery happened, it was probably gradual. It could have started with seeds spilling near their camp, or a wet grain supply sprouting and growing on its own. Whatever the case, noticing these patterns probably took time and careful observation. Now, to connect this to the bigger picture, how did settled village life contribute to a higher birth rate compared to nomadic lifestyles? Well, think about the constraints of moving around with dependent children. It's much harder to have larger families when you're constantly on the move, but in a settled village, it became easier to support and raise more children. So, why did early people consider farming a curse? Well, initially, it was seen as a burden because it required a lot more work than their traditional hunting and gathering lifestyle. It also went against their established ways of life, which they valued deeply. The most likely reason for this switch was necessity. As populations grew, the natural environment started to struggle to provide enough food for everyone. So, they had to adapt and start farming to meet those increasing demands. Interestingly, even primitive agriculture proved remarkably efficient. It could support up to 50 times more people than hunting and gathering, which shows how important this shift was in supporting larger communities. Now, this change didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process. People began with casual, small-scale farming, and over time, they dedicated more and more of their time to cultivating crops. Eventually, farming became their full-time occupation. To wrap up, consider this practice question. Why did early people see farming as a curse, despite its ability to sustain more people? The answer is that farming involved much more work and represented a significant disruption to their traditional customs and beliefs. It was a dramatic change, even if it ultimately benefited them in terms of food supply. Let's talk about the societal shift from cooperation to conflict. In hunter-gatherer societies, all members hunted together and shared the results. There was no concept of private property, so there wasn't anything to fight over. These communities were generally peaceful and in agreement, relying on shared resources and cooperation. The social structure was quite egalitarian, meaning everyone had roughly the same status and access. Now compare that to agricultural societies. Here, individual families farmed their own lands, and with that came the evolution of private property. Once people could own land and resources, conflicts started to arise over ownership and control. This led to increased competition and conflict, and social classes began to emerge, richer families and poorer ones. The social structure became more hierarchical, with clear distinctions between different social levels. So why did this shift occur? Well, farming required less cooperation and sharing than hunting and gathering. When individual families could farm their own plots, the idea of private property became central. This change in how resources were owned and controlled was a major factor in the rise of social classes and conflict. It's a stark contrast to the peaceful, shared nature of hunter-gatherer societies. Now, for the practice question. One major difference in social structure between a hunter-gatherer society and an early agricultural society is that hunter-gatherers had an egalitarian social structure, where resources and status were shared equally, whereas early agricultural societies developed social classes and hierarchies based on land ownership and wealth. Now, let's look at some of the key techniques that help transform agriculture and, ultimately, society. First, the two-field system was a simple but effective method. One of the fields was left unused each year, allowing the soil to recover its nutrients naturally. This helped maintain fertility over time. Next, crop rotation took this a step further by planting different crops in succession. Since different crops draw different nutrients from the soil, this method reduced exhaustion and kept the land more productive longer. Then there's irrigation, a systematic way to manage water. This was especially important during dry seasons, ensuring crops received enough moisture to grow and increasing overall yields. All these techniques combined resulted in something remarkable, a grain surplus. This surplus was a game changer because it provided food security and created opportunities for trade. But with this abundance came new challenges. Managing large amounts of grain and organizing irrigation systems required a high level of organization and cooperation among communities. As a result of these advances and the increased food supply, we see the rise of civilization. Surplus and organized efforts allowed some people to specialize in crafts, technologies, and other roles beyond farming. This was the beginning of cities and complex societies, with innovations like writing and metallurgy. Finally, for the practice question, remember, the new agricultural techniques like crop rotation and irrigation directly led to a grain surplus, increased organization, and the rise of cities. The one that was not a direct result was returning to a nomadic lifestyle, which actually declined as farming became more efficient and stable. So here we see what's called the accidental genetic engineering of wheat. Let's start with the dominant variety, the shattering wheat. This type of wheat had a trait that caused it to scatter its seeds easily, even with just a slight touch. In nature, this trait was actually beneficial because it helped the species spread and survive through natural selection. The plants that could easily disperse seeds had a better chance of thriving and continuing their lineage. Now contrast that with the recessive variety, the non-shattering wheat. This type didn't scatter its seeds easily, which made it less common in the wild. But from a human perspective, This was a big advantage because the seeds stayed on the plant, making them much easier to harvest. Here, where it gets interesting, the process of accidental selection. Farmers, unknowingly, tended to collect and plant more of the non-shattering wheat because it was easier to harvest. Over the years, this preference caused the proportion of non-shattering wheat to increase in their fields. Gradually, this variety became dominant. This process effectively reversed natural selection, because the traits favored by farmers weren't necessarily the traits that helped the plant survive in the wild. Instead, they favored traits that made harvesting easier, even if that meant the plant was less capable of spreading its seeds naturally. And to connect this to the larger theme, this is a clear example of how early humans unintentionally influenced the genetics of crops. Our ancestors unknowingly reversed natural selection, favoring traits that benefited us rather than the plant's survival instincts. Finally, just a quick practice question: true or false? Did early farmers intentionally select the shattering variety of wheat because it was better for the plant's survival? The answer is false. Farmers chose the non-shattering variety because it was easier to harvest, not because they understood genetics. This was completely accidental, and it changed the course of wheat evolution without anyone realizing it at the time. The agricultural revolution left a lasting legacy that truly shaped human history. One of the most significant changes was the development of permanent settlements. As agriculture provided a reliable food source, humans could settle in one place, leading to the rise of villages and cities, and transforming nomadic societies into complex civilizations. This shift also fueled population growth. With consistent food supplies, populations could expand rapidly, laying the foundation for the billions of people we see today. Another key impact was the emergence of specialization and culture. Surplus food freed people from the immediate need to hunt and gather, allowing them to focus on crafts, writing, science, art, and governance. These advancements became the building blocks of civilization as we know it. Agriculture's influence was truly global. It spread across continents, shaping the development of diverse societies and cultures, and connecting us all through this shared foundation. However, it's important to recognize the challenges that come with this legacy. While agriculture is undoubtedly humanity's greatest achievement, we must also focus on sustainable development. Ensuring that our methods remain environmentally friendly is crucial for the long-term survival of our species and future generations. And as we reflect on this, I'd like to pose a discussion question. Do you agree that the agricultural revolution was the greatest revolution in our history? Why or why not? Think about both the incredible benefits and the challenges it brought to human society. Thank you for exploring this fascinating journey with me. How humans transitioned from hunters and gatherers to farmers and builders of civilizations.